You worked with household surveys and public preference estimation. What are the biggest practical challenges in the field data collection and ensuring data quality in Nepal?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like I said, data often in Nepal and in the South Asian region, we don't have data, especially micro level data to answer a lot of this question. So you need to come up, one way to tackle that is that you come up with your own survey and then you generate your own data, and this is what I did. But then collecting data is difficult, right? One is that data collection can be very costly. So in my case, it took us the overall cost was $10,000, which is roughly 14 lakhs in Nepali rupees right now. So we collected a household survey of 610 households. So that took us 14 lakhs because you need to you need money, for example, to go to travel to all these places. And since I was collecting data of 610 households, I also had to, hire a team, right? So make a team. So I hired 8 numerators, so who would go to field and then, and do all the questionnaires. I also had two people who were analyzing the data, entering the data. So not analyzing the data, but entering the data. And then I also had a supervisor who would supervise everything. And then but then before doing the survey, I had to do a focus group discussion, inviting all the local stakeholders. So while you're doing these sessions, you also need to buy them food, right? And also while you're conducting survey, you need to give incentives to households, right? So in our case, we give like small incentives like soaps or washing powder or toothpaste, something like that, right? So that gives incentive to households who are taking part in the survey. So there are cost involved, right? So first is that finding that grant to help conduct research, and the next part is then developing the questionnaire, right? So questionnaire, and also you need to make questionnaire appropriate to those regions. So in my case, for example, I was conducting my survey in Bhairava, and then in Bhairava there's this big Muslim population, right? So questions like, do you drink? Okay, so those questions, the households reject very strongly. Okay, so you need to go to field, understand, your survey respondents. Okay, whether they'd be triggered by certain questions like, do you drink or not, or do you smoke or not, do you consume tobacco or not. So those kind of questions may trigger them. So you need to be very sensitive about those issues. And then also, while you're connecting this the field survey, you need to ensure that there's a random sampling involved, right? So your research question and then analysis as good as your data. So you need to ensure that there's a random sampling, right? So you're sampling your respondents randomly, and ensuring randomness is difficult, right? So we followed the World Bank guidelines on how to ensure that there's randomness while collecting data. But again, this could be tricky, right? For example, the World Bank suggests that you sample a household, and then sample, so like take every fifth household to your right. But then in the case of Nepal, right, so we have this hilly landscape. So your fifth household could be like behind the hill, so you need to travel, you walk for 2 hours to reach to that households. So those could be some challenging. Also, the other challenge could be that so I was conducting my survey during this really peak heat time in Bhairaba. So in Bhairava, during summertime, it easily reaches 40, 45 degrees Celsius, and all the enumerators are going to field in this really extremely heat. So I always fear that the enumerators might just fill out the survey themselves rather than actually asking the household. So I had to cross check. I had to randomly go to field and then cross check whether they're actually conducting those and they're actually sort of filling out this questionnaire asking households. So I had to ensure that. So and then once you sort of collect those data, then entering the data, you encounter all kinds of questions. A lot of the questions the households don't answer, right? So we have to keep reminding the enumerators that the house, please ask households to provide some response. So we don't want any blank responses. Okay, so all this is a very challenging, it's a very long process. I would say that I almost spent 10 months of my PhD just writing grants, developing questionnaire, going to the field, collecting data, and entering the data. So that the entire 10 months was spent just doing that. And then after that, once I get the data, now I can sit down and start analyzing them to start writing a paper.